r/AskReddit. Parents of Reddit, what is the worst thing your child has caught you doing? Not embarrassing, but once when I was in the shower my 4-year-old yanked the curtain open and asked me why I had hair on my penis. When I tried to tell him that I don't have a penis because I'm female, he asked me if it was my butt. Try explaining that girls don't have front butts or a penis while standing naked in the shower with the door wide open. Finally I just told him he'd have hair on his butt one day and he cried and ran away. I saw my dad in the shower once when I was like 3 or 4. I asked him how many of those, pointing at his testicles, he had, and he said, 5. You grow more as you get older. I believed that shit until I was like 11. I got worried once because I still only had 2. I used to ask my friends how many they had. Probably not the worst thing, but sort of related. She saw me peeing once. As a dad, no big deal. Explain it, move on. She tried it recently with predictable results. The mats needed a cleaning anyway. I caught my dad cutting coke when I was 6. He told me it was anti-sweat powder for a friend that had very sweaty feet and let me help him bag it up into single foot usage. I only realized a few years ago what was actually happening. I found a trunk full of some of my parents' stuff from when they were dating and first married, including papers they wrote in college. My dad, who went to college about 4 years after my mom because he was in Vietnam, plagiarized about half the papers he turned in. He copied the papers my mom turned in word for word. Or, they corrected me, my mom actually plagiarized herself because she typed all his papers. My 2 boys had just come home from elementary school sex education lecture and I was working in our garage. They climbed up in the rafters where they had their fort while I worked below and asked me if I would answer some additional questions for them about the things they had talked about at school. Believing myself to have conquered most all of my hang-ups, I said sure. My youngest boy asked me what cum tasted like. I asked him what his tears/blood tasted like. He said salty and I said that the same was true for cum. He thought about it for a while and then asked, "How do you know, Dad?" My wife and I were fooling around. I was going down on her while using her toy, one that turns and gyrates and vibrates, very loud, on her. Being responsible adults, I assumed I had locked the door to our room after putting the kids to sleep. Anywho, she is lost in her pleasure, edging closer to orgasm, and I have my head buried between her thighs, with my naked ass in the air, going to town, so of course neither of us hear the door open, or our 7-year-old son wander in until he says mum. Ugh. Oh, We quickly attempt to cover up while he throws his hands over his face in an attempt to unsee the terrible things I was doing to his mother, except he leaves his fingers spread apart and puts his hands near his forehead, his body frozen in place in horror. I start laughing, mostly due to embarrassment and his ineffective attempt to hide. My wife takes him to his room and talks to him, asking if he has any questions. All he could come up with was, "Does this mean I am going to have another sister?" TLDR, 7-year-old son catches me going down on wife, expects siblings. My mom went out of town for the weekend and I went to the bar with my friends where we saw my dad on what looked like a date with another woman. After watching them drink a little and dance for a while, I couldn't take it, so I went home without him ever seeing me. After he got home I asked him why he was home so late, to which he replied, "My boss was on my ass about a project I needed to finish up at the office tonight." He had no idea that I knew. I've tried so hard to forget about this, so thanks for having it flood my brain with the unwanted memory. Not parents, but I was having sex with this girl on the floor of her apartment, really going at it, and I see her eyes get big. I look behind me, and there's this 8-year-old boy staring at me. I can still picture his face like it was yesterday. I didn't know she had a kid. I didn't know the kid was in the apartment. I don't know how long he was watching. I didn't know what to do or say. I still feel so bad about to this day. That look. My mother told me a story of when I was a child. They used to smoke weed and had a stash spot for papers and weed. Anytime their friends would come over they would pull it out. It got to the point where I had seen it happen so much that I would run and grab it for them when their friends would get there. One day my whole came over for Thanksgiving. As soon as my granddad's ass hit the sofa and ran and plopped a big bag of weed on his lap in front about 10 family members. Too bad I can't remember it though. Or luckily. Well, me and my boyfriend were sitting down in the living room to watch a movie, and we have a DVD player that automatically plays whatever is in it when you turn it on. We turned it on and we get greeted with a big round ass being pounded like there was no tomorrow. Quickly turning it off and taking the DVD out, we laugh about my dad watching porn and decided to tell my mom when she got home. Mom gets home, so mom, we found this in the DVD player. She started freaking out. I'm so sorry I left it in there. My bed faces the door. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning, think the kids are passed out. Too stupid / lazy / trusting to close the door, so I instead reverse cowgirl it so I can watch the door. Few minutes in, I lock eyes with my son. I'll never forget his expression. The next day, he asked for me not to be naked in my bed anymore. Okay, son. Sorry. I was walking past a house which is known in my area for holding people who deal and take high-class drugs such as meth, crack cocaine and heroin. At the point of walking past an open window, I was shocked to hear a young woman's voice, likely 20 to 25 years old, shout, "I can't believe you're shooting up in front of the kids." To which a man replied in an aggressive voice, "They don't fucking understand what it's doing." My sophomore year of college, my folks let me throw this big cookout / party for my college buddies. We were still underage, but the understanding was that we were in college and if we didn't go anywhere, have a fucking blast. So we're all getting hammered with my parents, eating awesome food, and having a wonderful old time. Everyone is good and drunk around 10 to 11 that night. All of my friends were stoners, but they were afraid smoking weed on my parents' porch would be disrespectful or something, so they kept it to themselves. My mom comes out and says she doesn't care, that she used to smoke in her day. I go to the front yard to make a phone call or something and have a cigarette. I come around the side of the house, and under my parents' porch I find all 10 or so of my buddies, and my mom, who as I'm taking the corner is putting the bowl up to her mouth. She absolutely fucking panics. She tries to toss it to the person on her right, like I don't even know. Like I was going to get upset and ground her or something. She was completely flustered. I laugh my ass off and we tease her for being busted, and proceed to smoke under the porch. My mom hadn't smoked since the 70s. Pot isn't like it was back then. She went to bed pretty much immediately after. Her reaction to me catching her though was absolutely hysterical. The next morning we had to explain to her that pot doesn't have seeds anymore, that it cost like $40 for a small bag, and that yeah, you don't want to hang out and smoke a couple joints like back in the day.